guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Sunday! Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Sunday, guys. Your promise is ready. Your promise is ready. Now, this is not for everyone. No word always is. However, this will be a clear, all caps, clear confirmation for you, and still take it back to God. So your promise is ready. So regardless of how long you've been waiting, regardless of the warfare that you have encountered along this journey, regardless of the trials and tribulations, regardless of the times you wanted to give up, regardless of the times you did give up but you got back to it, you stuck it out. Excuse me. Satan is going to fight me with this message because I've already had to hit record 3 or 4 times because he keeps messing with my throat. But I'm going to get this word out. Bear with me, guys, please. The time has come. A lot of you are in a posture where, again, you feel like God have went silent on you because God is not, things are not really active in the spiritual realm, right? And you can always know, you can, when you're plugged in, you can feel when there's a lot of movement going around in the spiritual realm. But right now, it's a lot of peace. There's a lot of stillness. In fact, God is probably conditioning you to sit down, to keep your hands up off just in a posture where you are to be still and receive. God is working. God is moving. But you got to take your hands off of absolutely everything right now as God is ushering these blessings. You guys hear that thunder? Everyone is waiting on different things. Some people it's the same things, but you get the point here, different scenarios. Everything that's going to be released to you, you had to be prepared for that thing. And if you're honest with yourself, now that you are out of that process, right, or coming out of it, you got to be honest enough with yourself to say, thank God that God did not release these promises to us when we thought we were ready. Because now you know more about the promise than you've ever known. So now you have all the insights. So you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Where if you hadn't been processed for this thing, you would have not stuck with the promise. You would have been out the first month, the first year when things got crazy. But because you stuck this process out, because see, you respect and you cherish things differently when you had to really work for it. Oh, and there was work in this process, correct? So you wouldn't be so easy to walk away from things and give up on things and when things get crazy, right? There's no way, not when you've been through such an extensive process. You're going to fight for it because you know what you've been through. So all along the times when we were side-eyeing God, regardless if you want to admit it or not, you hear that thunder? God knows. All that time we've been side-eyeing him because we figured like he was taking too long or he was ignoring us, and all along he was Satan, you was really up on me with this message here today, but you can get up off of me. You can get up off of me because I'm going to get this word out. Stumbling over my words and all, it's going to get out. Go play with your mama because I ain't got time. So all this time that we thought God was withholding something back from us, God was preparing us for it, for this time right now. You may not have it physically in your hand, but you got to trust and believe that it's here. It's time. There is nothing, all caps, nothing that can get into your mind, your body, or your spirit to make you now question what God has said. The business you wanted, the ministry you wanted, You were thinking too small initially when you first received the download from God about He wanted to use you in that direction. You were thinking you want to prepare for 100-member ministry when God have 1,000,000 for you. So He had to prepare you mind, body, and soul, right? You clapping back at somebody next to you in the cubicle at your job. You clapping back at your boss, but yet you're frustrated because God won't bring 1,000,000 people, or 100 for that matter. If God would have gave you the 100 when you thought you wanted it, it would have took your mind. You had no boundaries, where the process have taught you boundaries. The process has taught you to say no. The process have taught you that you don't even owe an exclamation when you say no. No, it is what it is. I can't. It is what it is. I can't come. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Where if you didn't go through that process, you Satan, you are rebuked. You and your mama. You can stay mad all you want. Your time is up and you know it. Leave me alone. I'm never the one to even have throat issues. Now he's like, seriously, this is how you know that you know that you know that you know. Because Satan knows his time is up. So he's going to be petty and he's going to try to throw all kind of foolishness your way so you can't give certain messages. But honey, you're going to get this message. And I got to sound like Al Bundy, clearing my throat. You're going to get this message. So that process taught you so many boundaries. God taught you how to put up boundaries with the people you love. So now it's nothing. It's nothing to put up boundaries with strangers. To those of you who are waiting on kingdom wealth transfers, the wealth of the wicked stored up for the righteous. You had the wrong mindset at first. It was all about getting rich or getting wealthy to, I guess, show your haters wrong, right? The I told you so mindset. Even though you still had intentions, you still wanted to do kingdom stuff, but God had to purify you from that mindset. So now, at this point, after that process, if you're honest, you would go back and bless your haters if God requires it. With no reservation. There is now nothing. There is zero impurities in your spirit about a person, about an ex, this is why the enemy is, let me tell you, Satan is so petty, right? Because you're so purified at this point, he's going to start throwing little random intrusive thoughts in your head. He's going to remind you something about what your ex did, right? Now, you haven't thought about this ex since the cows come home, right? But something random, just intrusive thoughts drop into your head about one time when they played with you all kind of way. And now your mind is going back on. Let me get my phone right quick. Right? He's trying to do anything to contaminate your mind and your spirit. When you've been purified, you don't even care about that stuff any longer. So mind your intrusive thoughts. When they come, when they download, rebuke it on sight. Even if it kind of like have you thinking to the left, rebuke it on sight, keep it moving. Repent, keep it moving. Because look at you now and look at your ex. So why even entertain that thought? They fumbled, not you. They're sitting back watching and wishing and hoping and praying. So why even entertain when they disrespected you and played with you all kind of way? You're the prize. So now it's about moving forward. Nothing in the past. You've been freed from that. You're moving. Everything is now about moving forward into the blessings and the promises of God. This is why the forgiveness and the healing process was so long and so intensive for some of you. Because see, when God bless you with blessings, you don't have to be perfect yourself, right? You may still have some vices about yourself, but your spirit has to be pure. This is why people can look at somebody who may have some type of character flaw or may not be perfect in the eyes of sanctified, holy, churchy people, but then they see the fruit of God on people's lives and they can't understand it. It's because you're too focused on this physical thing. God don't care about that nonsense. It's about your spirit. If your spirit is pure, and you are working every day on your character flaws, right? You're trying every day to get better, right? You just can't sweep that under the rug. You're trying, seriously, because God knows when we're trying. God is something about when God knows that you're trying. But when your spirit is pure and you truly love God and you truly are in alignment with the purpose of your life because you want the light of God to shine through you in whatever way that may be, God will bless you. If God can trust you, God will bless you. This is why also in the process, many of you discovered that God really amped up your game with your character and integrity. See, God takes things in your everyday life, and it's your obedience to what he's asking you to do. And sometimes you don't even realize what God is doing is he's shaping you in that area. Say, for example, you're a person who, when you get to work, right, you're never on time, but you got the hookup. So you call somebody and say, hey, clock me in early. I'm only 10 minutes away, but go ahead and clock me in, right? At some point, you would do that and have no reservations about it. Where sometime, and this just is one example where it can be 50,000, but something along that journey would start to convict you and you no longer had a desire. You would feel bad even doing it. So either you got your behind up early and went to work early and got there on time, or you just missed those 10 minutes and didn't worry about missing 10 minutes on your paycheck. See, obedience, even when you don't understand, you don't know what God is doing or shaping at the time, but you're just obedient to what God is convicting you to do. It starts to shape and mold certain things in you. So now you have character and integrity, which you need. God is not going to bless you or trust you with anything if you do not have integrity. If you say you're going to do it, do it. If it grieves your spirit, don't do it. Those of you who are waiting on kingdom spouses and purpose partners, destiny helpers, you know good and well. Go over here. Say, leave me alone. Other phone, go. You know, if you're a realist and if you're honest with yourself, you know good and well if God had released that woman to you 2 years ago, if God had released that man to you 3 years ago, you would be in divorce court today. Because you had this idea of, well, God says kingdom marriages and marriages, it's better to be, what's the Bible scripture? Two's better than one because somebody can keep somebody warm at night or something like that. Y'all help your girl out, comment section. The scripture people's where y'all at? Okay. But you had the wrong idea. God is bringing, quote unquote, kingdom partnerships in kingdom marriages, and I stress partnerships because everybody's not called to marriage. Some is, some not, whatever. Kingdom partnerships, kingdom marriages together for kingdom purposes. God is going to collide two individuals so more can be done for kingdom purposes on earth. You may have the power, they may have the audience, and then God collides the two, etc., etc. But you wanted it to take a picture for Instagram. You wanted it because your cousin who you didn't like since y'all was 5 got married 4 years ago, and now you want to show her, honey, that your husband is finer. You wanted it because society says if you're not 25 and married, then whatever they say. You wanted it because you were never complete and fulfilled, so you assume that a man or a woman will fulfill you. So you wanted it for all the wrong reasons. But that process did what? Burn all that nonsense off of you. Now, you get married in your backyard with just you and your man. Don't care who is there, don't care who knows. In fact, you would rather keep it private. Because God have really opened your eyes and removed the scales of how deep this thing is. You don't want nobody in your business. The kind of spirits that have attacked you in this process, God opening your mind to show you how deep this demonic realm is. You will do everything in your power to try to keep something private versus wanting somebody to see it on Instagram or social media. Don't ask me no questions about my man. Don't ask me no questions about my woman unless it calls for that. Because, of course, kingdom purpose, kingdom marriages, it's a ministry. But if it doesn't call for that, this process have taught you the importance of privacy. Thank God I've always had that. But that process and those demonic attacks that you had to really war against have taught you how powerful that demonic realm is. You can say what you want to say. That demonic realm, the higher you go, will take your mind or can take your mind if you're not tapped in. The enemy will attack your family. He will attack your mind. He will send nightmares. Listen, you got to be tapped in. So God had to prepare you for all of that. Because think about it. When the blessing is literally in your hand and now you're all over the world and you're doing kingdom work. Now you don't have the people in your neighborhood attacking you. You got the whole world attacking you. You got spirits coming from everywhere, coming up against you in the blessing. But now you know how to fight that thing by allowing God to fight it. You ain't got to touch it. The process taught you that, especially towards the ending. You don't have to do nothing but stand and trust and believe. That's all you got to do. And 4 years ago, the first thing that came at you, honey, you would have been somewhere, somebody nut house, in somewhere tied up in shackles somewhere, because I think that took your mind. But now you know what it is. You would have been in divorce court today because those trauma triggers would have had you accusing that man of all kind of foolishness when the man just trying to work, but you're saying he cheating because your ex cheated and now you're cheating. You'd have been in divorce court because he don't want to put no time in, even though he put time in, but you need him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you don't even have a purpose in calling and you haven't worked on those trauma wounds yet. So you think it's his job or her job to fulfill you, which is nobody's job except your own. You'd have been in divorce court because of that mouth. God tamed that mouth in the process. All that popping off, nobody going to tell me what to do, because you move like that in your last marriage or your last relationship. You no longer have a desire to even move like that. Because now what the process have done was taught you to change your perspective and to receive healthy, whole people. Well, with healthy, whole men, you don't even have a desire to be in survivor mode. You're chilling. So because your desires and your quote-unquote type have changed, your marriage will be saved. Sir, you'd have been in divorce court today because you sleeping with the whole neighborhood. Every fine thing walk by you. You have zero discipline. Zero. But you've been asking God for the longest to give you $1 million business. Sir, you would have lost that business and been on CNN CNN in handcuffs, embarrassed in front of the whole world. But that process taught you some discipline, right? Or she's still fine, but you don't have to act on it no more. You're disciplined. So now God can trust you. You're not going to make a fool of yourself. Or make a fool of God for that matter. He can trust you. When God can trust you, he will bless you. If God were to give you the $1 million 4 years ago, you'd have been bankrupt by the end of this year. Now you're frugal. So you see why the process took so long, why it was so hard. When you're in it, you can't see it. So my peoples who are listening and you're still in it, like you don't know if you don't know your head from your feet. You don't know if you're going left or right. You're still spinning and spinning and spinning. A time will come, right? Just don't, whatever you do, stick it out, because it's so easy to give up and go back, because that process either is going to make you or is going to break you. As I always say, how bad do you want it? People like myself who are visionaries, you have, I don't want to say an advantage. That's not the word I'm looking for. But it helps when you know what you're working towards. Because God has shown it to you, right? You just can't get it because he's shown it to you. But it helps. But to individuals who God have not shown you the vision, the promised land, ask God to show you what it is, because then you have an idea of what you're working towards and why certain things have to happen. But when you're spinning and you don't know what it is God is doing, and you don't know if you're going left or right, it's so easy to say, I ain't got time for this. I'm going back to level 1. And I'm going to stay there until Jesus come home. But if you stick it out, and that fire gets hot, if you stick it out, a time will come when you're going to see a glimmer of light. And you're going to fully trust God enough to take your hands off of that thing. And nobody, not your own daddy, can say something to you to make you change your mind about what God has said to you, what God has shown you. The whole world can think you're insane. This is why you close your mouth anyway, because they're going to think you're insane, right? Because God is not logical. They can't feel what's in your spirit. And then you will be at this point where a selective group of people are right now. Resting in God. One of you guys, I think that might have been Janice. One of you guys commented and said that in one of my recordings in the comment section a couple of days ago. And then I just felt compelled to really, because I mean, you hear certain things, it's kind of like cliche, you hear things so much, rest in God, rest in God, rest in God. But when I really dig into that thing, that's really what this time is right here for a lot of people. It's really what it is. You are resting in God. It's almost like a grandmom who is 600 pounds and she just feel like a bunch of mushy mashed potatoes and gravy. I don't know. And you're just laying in her bosom. I'm talking about no, you're not tense, no triggers or nothing. You're just laying in her bosom. Resting in God. Your promise is ready. God is bringing it in. The worst thing you can do right now is to mess around and get your hands in something that God have not convicted you to do so. You might have one last order, but you cannot move on that until you hear clearly from God. Because at this point, you can hear very clearly from God. Your job is to make sure you mute the distractions. You got to be so tapped in right now, honey, that your wants, whatever you want to go someplace, you want to do this, your wants got to be paused right now. Because you need to hear from God. He may give you one last direction or motive. This is not for everybody, because some people, you might have already had your last direction. You've done it. So now you're just waiting on him to usher it in. It will find you. The process had you toiling because you really didn't trust God at 100% capacity. Your triggers were involved, all that nonsense. Where now you trust God enough to just let him bring it on in. Your promise is ready. Are you? It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.